I just got off the phone with Tom Mercado from the Budget Committee. This thing with Farber's screwed up pooch.
What? They can't lump us in with that fucking Martian.
We're all in the same boat, fellas.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really.
Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hey, Farva, what's the name of that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit on the walls and the mozzarella sticks? You mean shenanigans? Oh. You're talking about shenanigans, right?
Put those away!
Welcome back to another episode of Front Row Cinema, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers. I am your host, TJ Trimboli, and with me, as always, my co-host. We got some pretty popular officers in the group tonight. We've got State Trooper all the way down from Vermont, Mr. James O'Reilly.
Yeah, I like to get away every once in a while. The Vermont State Trooper beat's a little rough sometimes,
So he's come here to grace us with his pleasure this week. And each week we take a look at my 1,000 movies I've seen in theaters, and we see how well it's aged, along with the hype surrounding the film, its box office analysis, and legacy in the film industry. So if you enjoy this kind of content, hit that sub button on YouTube, leave that 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's how you help the channel grow. Jim, what are we watching tonight?
we're watching Super Troopers.
That's right, 2002 comedy classic. Super Troopers, written and starring the comedy troupe Broken Lizard and directed by one of its members, Jay Chandrasekhar. I probably absolutely butchered that. I'm sorry, Jay.
I think you
What
did better than I would have.
I did my
I
best.
I still haven't gotten the name from the mummy right, which I'm really bummed isn't on my soundboard right now. But
I did my best phonetically, so we'll hold with that. But Jim, I'm pulling it out. We didn't have it last week. Thankfully, we didn't have it last week, but we have it this week. I would never pass up an opportunity to own Super Troopers on home video. So we busted out.
Super Troopers Steelbook.
Unfortunately, they have not graced us with a Super Troopers steelbook yet, but I'll make sure that you're the first to know when they drop it on Amazon or something. But we go to the back here and we see our lovely log line for the comedy classic Super Troopers, and it reads: Captain O'Hagan tries in vain to control the imaginations and hormones of his bumbling team of 5 Vermont highway patrolmen. But when the opportunity to solve a real crime rolls their way, the formerly inept Super Troopers pounce into action to become highway heroes.
Yeah, not bad.
It's not bad.
I mean, I think the highway heroes part happens in the last 3 minutes of the movie, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's not really a big part of it.
It's not a very liberal sentence for a very liberal idea of a plot here. This is very much like it kind of has a plot, but it's very loosely strung together.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of last week's movie in the sense that none of the plot really makes much sense or matters. The difference, I would say, is that I actually find Super Troopers funny.
And we'll get more into it later, but yeah, it seems very much like they were able to take an idea to riff on and actually find a way to make it funny for 90 minutes instead of just being like, hey, here's this really silly martial arts movie I have. I'm going to make pee-pee and fart jokes and bad lip
Yeah,
reading
yeah,
throughout the whole movie.
I wasn't nearly as bored. I maybe got a little long-winded at some parts. I was like, all right, come on, I've seen Super Troopers a bunch. But it's just interesting, you're right. How those comedy movies, they can get away with not really being super deep movies as long as there's good jokes.
Very true. Very true. Did you see this one in theaters?
I don't think I did. No, this was not the kind of movie my parents would take me to. I think this is actually one that I got into from one of my 2 older brothers.
Interesting. Yeah, no, this was as we've come to learn as a running theme over the last few months of episodes, is that Big Rob loved to take us to really dumb comedies.
Yeah.
We've done Black Knight here, Kung Pao, Scary Movie. Big Rob loved R-rated comedies.
Yeah, and Big Rob, don't worry, he's gonna get a sternly worded letter about how I've been spending my time the last couple months.
But yeah, so he took me, my brother, and a buddy, elementary school buddy of mine, Dave. I think you've met.
Oh yeah, I've met
Yeah,
Dave.
you've met Dave way back in the day.
I have a
He
funny story about Dave that I will not tell on the podcast, but I'll tell you later.
definitely, I would say any story involving us from back in middle school and high school should definitely not be spoken over the airwaves.
Yeah.
Uh, But yeah, so Big Rob took us to see this movie, and the four of us were pissing in our pants. This was one of, like, back then, my favorite comedies I had ever seen. And it's one that I had returned to the well for a lot when we were in high school. I think we quoted this movie a lot when we were in high school. I still quote it a lot today, but I don't watch it nearly as often as I used to when I was a kid. But
Yeah.
this is a comedy that is near and dear to my heart, so it's going to be fun to dive into this one.
I think I still randomly say I don't want a large farva. Or like even just I want a goddamn liter of cola. Like I feel like I say that still to this day a bunch.
Yeah, again, we'll get into it later, but this movie has a lot of insanely quotable dialogue, and that definitely helps put it apart from other dumb comedies in the sense that it'll stay with you because you'll be quoting it incessantly for the next like however long after you've watched it.
Yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, the same cannot be said. It seems it's more of a cult classic though than any actual successful comedy from back in the 2000s because Jim, this was not a terrible but not a stellar box office run that you want to see out of a comedy. So cue it up. Let's dive into some box office numbers.
Numbers, dates, numbers, numbers, dates, array. Dates, numbers. Show me the money.
All right. Super Troopers opened the weekend of February 15th to the 17th of
Oh,
2002.
Valentine's Day movie.
Yeah. Also, just like last week, we're still in Salt Lake Olympics territory. So I don't know why they're putting that on Box Office Mojo. I guess they think the Olympics will like take away from the box office. So it's like worth mentioning. Like people are like not going to the movies. They're going to stay and watch the Olympics.
That would make sense, but I don't know if that really holds up.
I mean, in 2002, I think it would have made more sense than it does now. Like back then, people really gave a shit about the Olympics. I don't know that anybody does anymore, but
Side of us watching curling events.
yeah. Well, oh, dude, how great was that? I don't want to get too off topic here, but how great was that U.S. gold in curling? We were like at bars watching all the games.
Yeah.
That was a fun time.
We were at bars like 2 a.m. watching those games sometimes.
I know, yeah, because it was like in Korea or something, like somewhere overseas. I don't know where,
Good times.
but but yeah, so it opens that weekend against a $3 million budget. So that's important to mention here. That's probably the
Yeah.
lowest budget movie we've seen made.
And that's
But it
definitely
opens,
going to help this movie like look like a big success. At least
yeah,
for
yeah,
the type of movie that it is.
right. So, but it opens to $6.2 million in ninth place.
Oof. Man, joining Kung Pao, which also opened in ninth place. And it hurts me to say this now, Jim, because 6.2 is good enough to put Super Troopers as the lowest grossing opening weekend here. Kung Pao beat this movie opening at 7 million.
Oh, that's pretty tough. Yeah, when you put it that way.
But there's the
Um,
asterisk, Jim. It's not Super Troopers' fault. It's the goddamn Olympics.
yeah, that it's got to be, right? That's the problem here.
Yeah.
But no, so it also faces some pretty stiff competition with for opening movies, right? So in this first week, I'm gonna start at the top this time because I think the top is pretty interesting.
Okay, what opened?
Coming in at number one with $20.3 million is the Denzel Washington vehicle, John Q.
Ooh, that's a good movie.
Yeah, I think it might be a strong contender. If you haven't seen that in theaters, I think that's a real reasonable pick because I like that movie a lot.
That's a good one too, because I don't think I've watched that movie probably since high school.
Yeah. But so no, so you're going to go up against Denzel in 2002. That's not a winning
Yeah,
proposition.
that's
That's
not
like
yeah, not a great
he's a
move.
star at this point, you know?
He's
God
coming
only
off a
knows what this
training
movie would
day,
have done if it
probably.
wasn't for the Salt Lake Olympics.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Also coming out this weekend in second place, its opening weekend with $14.5 million, the Britney Spears vehicle Crossroads.
Oh, no, there's a movie. Heather actually made me watch that movie like a few weeks ago. Uh,
I think I've seen it, and I remember thinking it was funny for all the wrong reasons when I was a kid, when I was a teenager.
it's not great. I mean, it's not terrible, but like it's very much not for like not made for us. Like I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, like this is fine, but like this is not for me. It is
Yeah, is
funny
it with
though that Zoe Saldana is in it too. It's like one of her first roles. She plays one
Oh,
of the
she's one of
friends.
like the three main like
Yeah,
women that are in it, right? Because
yeah,
there's three that are like all friends.
and the third one, I don't know what her name is, but she was on Orange is the New Black.
Was
So
she
she was like the ratty one that had like the bad teeth and was like the bum, like the white, like the ratty white girl. I don't know what her name
okay?
was. I don't
Not
know what
not
her
Natasha
name is.
Leone.
No, no, not her. And
I
not the
was like,
girl
yeah,
from that '70s show or the main chick. It was like one of the just like side character ones, and I don't know what her name
gotcha.
was.
Yeah, I watched Orange is the New Black like the first season, like probably like 10 years ago. I don't really
Yeah,
remember.
same. I think I watched it when it was first on the air.
All right. So but then yeah, also though, isn't Crossroads a remake of that Ralph Macchio movie where he like has like a
Oh,
guitar duel with the
no,
devil at the end?
no,
Dude, I think they are related in some
no.
way. Like it's like a loose remake.
Well, you're
Like
gonna have to
instead of
really.
being like an 80s guitar guy, it's about a pop because she's like a pop singer in that, isn't she? Isn't that the idea that she's trying to be a musician?
Well, kind of, but like
Dude, I'm
so
telling you, it's
barely.
a remake
No,
of the Ralph
no,
Macchio movie. Yes, it
no.
is.
Take that tin hat off.
That's
We're
not,
not
dude.
talking about time
You,
travel.
I will put this on our bet board right now that that movie is connected to the Ralph Macchio movie.
All right,
Not like they
all
like
right.
are like a sequel or anything, but it's like a soft remake where they're like, all right, we'll make Crossroads, but this time we'll target it toward teen girls.
Very soft.
All
Very soft.
right, so but anyway, that's enough about Crossroads. We'll come back to that. Coming in third place that week, Return to Neverland with 11.9 million. I don't know if I've seen that movie. I don't know what that
I know what
is.
that is. I think that's I'm assuming it's like Peter Pan related.
Well, yeah, I mean it's yeah, right.
Yeah.
Um, and then also out in theaters, the other opening weekend I see here is Hearts War in seventh place. I don't know what that movie is.
Oh, that's a war movie with Colin Farrell and Bruce Willis.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
not good.
Um, and going in to week two, Super Troopers holds its ninth place
Hold the line.
with only a 37% drop, which I
It's not
mean, I
bad.
guess it's when you start that low though, it's hard to like it's hard to drop much more than that because it only pulls in 3.9 million in its second week.
Still, you got to give it its olive branch where we can give it.
Yeah, and I mean,
Because
there's not really.
I have a bad
Go ahead.
feeling Super Troopers is also not making it much longer than 2 weeks in the top 10.
Yeah, so there's not really much to talk about. I think part of the reason we talked about Crossroads a little for a little long is because Super Troopers drops out of the top 10 in week 3. It drops
Oof,
to 14th place with
oof.
$2.1 million.
All right, so it's not coming in last for best legs. It's at least tying Kung Pao 2 weeks apiece.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean it's interesting because they are like we brought this up earlier, like they are kind of similar movies where they're just like you're not really going because it's like a good movie necessarily. You're just going for some yucks and some laughs, you know?
God, I really hope its totals are at least better than Kung Pao's.
Uh I don't remember off the top of my head what Kung Pao's were, but I think it is because internationally it's gonna carry. So totals domestic, it finishes with 18.5 million, which, if I remember correctly, edges out Kung Pao by like a couple million, right? By like maybe one and some change.
Yeah, so Kung Pao last place with 16.9. So that's solid right there. I could rest easy now.
Yeah, international, which Kung Pao didn't even break a million. It's coming back to me. Kung Pao didn't even break a million. Super Troopers pulled in 4.7
All right.
internationally. So it did pretty good overseas, and then that's for like a worldwide total of 23.2 million, let's call it.
3.2. All right. So hey, 23.2 is good enough to just beat Kung Pao. So it's not at the bottom of the barrel. Just manages to squeak ahead of Kung Pao, but sits behind Black Knight's 39.9. The 4.6 international is very interesting, with this being like a very, American movie. Like, it'd be interesting to see like what other cultures and countries even understand about the difference between highway patrol and local police. Like, I mean, I'm sure they
Yeah,
have their own like versions of it, but it's just
I think
interesting.
I think part of I think the fact that it's so American is part of what carries the day, because I think like people, like, if I'm in like France, the people in Super Troopers are exactly what I think every American is. You know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah,
like, all right,
yeah,
yeah, this is the kind of American comedy I want to see. It's like
it's true.
raunchy, it's stupid, like this is exactly what I expect from those people.
Yeah,
So,
to them who think that like all Americans are like bumbling clowns too. Like this is perfect. They're just like, yeah, look at them.
right,
Like they're just
right,
a bunch
right.
of youngsters. Like,
They're like probably a bunch of people in Europe went to see this thinking it was a documentary or something. You know what I mean?
they go,
So
oh, feel the Americans.
so it makes sense to me. And then just kind of some context, because like 23.2 million's like a bad number, right? But it's against the $3 million budget. Nobody's ever really heard of these guys before this movie. I mean, I know I hadn't. Um,
Oh,
and
this really
like
puts them on the map.
this is another one. I haven't been able to find anywhere on the internet like to get like good numbers about home video sales. Um, but this is another one where I imagine like they made more than 7 times their budget back, and then I'm sure it crushed on home video.
Oh
And
yeah.
the Broken Lizard guys are going to go on to make a bunch more movies, which I think we'll get into later. But that doesn't happen if this is a total failure, you know?
No, no, I think this is, even though, it looks like low totals here and is not, the big, huge win you want it to be. This is still for them coming out as unknown guys, writing and directing this movie of people I've never heard of, keeping a budget very small, but having a solid return right there. Because that right there, like you put 3 million in, we got 23 back. That's good. Like you got a profit of pretty much $20 million out of this movie. Like that's, especially for back then when they were more invested in making these types of, mid-budget movies, that's a success right there.
Yeah, and by the way, it's really well shot for its budget. Like we can get into that more later, but like I don't know, I just like I would trust these guys if I was a movie executive and I saw this movie, I'd be like, yeah, you guys could totally make another movie. Like if you did that
Yeah.
with $3 million, like I'm in.
Like let's what can they do if we give them like 10 this time?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, no, this was a movie that for them should be considered an all-around success, even if it's not these huge numbers that, you want to see when you're releasing your movie. For them, this is a huge statement to put them on the map and as far as getting like whatever the next thing they're going to be allowed to do is.
Yeah, and I think with all that said, I've made my case for not playing the Mark Addy drop.
That
I
is
think
true.
I've made
Mark,
my case.
yeah, send Mark back to the dungeons. We're not bringing him out this weekend.
Yeah,
He's not needed.
exactly.
Get out of here. But all right, Jim, let's dive into this beast here. Let me hear some likes and dislikes out of you for this movie.
So I was just getting into it like just a second ago, but I think that Jay Chandrasekhar.
Oh yeah, you definitely did worse than I did.
I've been trying to sound it out. I don't think I did great, but
Hooked
I
on
think
monkey phonics.
he does like a really good job of directing this movie. Like even the opening scene when you're like in the car and you see the cops like take off and then like stop and then like drive backwards to get back behind the dudes and turn their lights on, and then you're just looking at them stop and pull up in the rearview mirror. Like it's all like visually kind of interesting, like way more than I would expect from a movie like this. You know what I mean? Like, so that's one thing.
Well, he does a really good job of the way he frames that by keeping it in the car with the stoners. So you're kind of feeling the, tension of what they're feeling.
Right, exactly.
Because
And
like
like,
you have the moment where he goes like registration and he reaches for the registration and the camera cuts to below with the two of them so we don't see the cops anymore. And then as
right.
they pull back, the cops are gone and we're watching in from the car with them as the cops peel away. So you're getting that release with them. And then from in the car with them, you see it skid to a stop, roll back, and do that whole spiel. And you're just in that moment with them. Like when it cuts back to the kid in the back and his eyes are so wide and like
Yeah.
bloodshot. And like it's like, dude, this is shot way better than any first time director has a right to be.
Yeah, and I mean that's like that whole opening scene also sets the tone in such an amazing way. Like it's so funny. It's still so funny to this day, you know?
I honestly think that that's like one of the best openings to a movie I've seen. Like it's just done so perfectly
Yeah.
and builds in such a hilarious manner while also like revealing everything you need to know about these five cops. Like so
Yeah,
quick.
absolutely. And I mean like I love that like within the first 10 seconds the guy is eating like 2 bags worth of drugs. Like he eats like what has to be like, I don't know, that's at least a half ounce of weed that he just like downs, which I'm not even sure you're able to do. I don't know how that works.
Oh, there's
And
no
then the guy
way.
hands him a bag of mushrooms.
You must have
And
ate
then
like 60 bucks of weed and like 30 bucks of mushrooms,
no,
man.
it was 100. He's like you ate like 130 bucks of drugs, and then he goes, so like you owe me 130 bucks, like whenever you got it,
I was like,
That's like,
that's not really cool, man.
yeah, that's one of the best jokes in the opening scene. And then also like when the guy, like you were just saying, he pops out from the back seat and he's like all bug-eyed and he's like, I'm freaking out, man. Like that'll never get old to me. Cause it builds so well. Like the guy who ate the drugs doesn't talk for a while once the cops start interacting with the guys in the front seat. And like he just like you're still seeing them like progressively go like crazier and
Worse and
crazier because
worse.
the drugs are kicking in. Like it's so funny.
It's fun because like you don't know in that moment in that scene if it's this kid experiencing the drugs or if they're really fucking with them in this manner. Because like they do the whole thing, the whole bit, and then drive off, and then come back, and then do the whole bit again with them, and
Yeah.
you don't, and like the kid's sitting back there, like, and he
Well, the
looks
kid, yeah,
absolutely lost.
the
Like,
guy on the drugs doesn't know. He's like,
yeah,
dude, what is happening?
yeah, it's so good. It's
Yeah, so I mean, like all those little things you were just saying, I think it's like really like this is a phrase I say a lot with movies. It's better than it has any right to be. Like for how much attention to detail is in there and like a lot of the things you were just pointing out. Um the other big thing that I really liked, Kevin Heffernan, is that how you say his name? Heffernan?
yeah.
He absolutely steals the show in this movie. Everything he says cracks me up. He's so funny. He plays like the perfect like just douchebag guy that nobody likes. Like literally nobody in the movie likes him at all.
He manages to
Um
make like every single line of dialogue he has, whether it's supposed to be funny or not, funny because of just how he is. Like even when we first meet him, he's like, "Do you need assistance?" Like the
yes,
way he
yes.
says anything is hilarious.
Yeah, but just like the way that he's suspended in the beginning of the movie, and then this is a great turn like toward like the middle to the end when he gets unsuspended, and then they spend like a good amount of time just showing you exactly why that guy was suspended in the
In the
first
first
place.
place.
Like he just like the power immediately goes to his head. Like he can't operate as a police officer at all.
He's just such a freaking hothead. Well, I think that opening scene does a really good job of establishing every single one of them like very quickly. And my favorite character in this movie, and he's been one of my favorite characters like my whole. I always thought this dude was so cool. Is Mac, and he's just the coolest dude on the block, even if they are all just absolute morons. Like the first scene, and I never really even picked up on it until this time, but it cracks me up at how bad of police officers they are. That
Yeah.
he brings them on the chase scene. And then when they run in after him and he's in there and he's like, you guys suck. And they have their whole spiel. And then he just goes like shots. And then he downs 4 shots
He
and then
takes
goes
all the
like,
shots.
takes all the shots, but not even that. Then they're just like, what do we do about the stoners? And they all think it's a great idea to have the cop who just downed 4 shots
Right.
immediately run out and just start going doing donuts in the parking lot with these suspects now.
Yeah. Dude, by the way, that's another all-time great quote when he's like, "You boys like Mexico." Like, that's another all-time great.
You shot the cops, man. This is just a movie that just managed to strike lightning in a bottle in that every bit of dialogue in this movie is finds a way to be funny to me, even when it's not. Like even when we meet Foster and he's coming out of the bushes, like he was just fishing and had the fake police officer in his vehicle, and he just walks up and goes, "Hey, good looking, catch any speeders?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's such a dumb line of dialogue, but for whatever reason in this movie, it all just works for me.
Yeah. Dude, you know what line just like sent me over the edge? And it's a Farva line for sure. Like, they set it up, they play the meow game, like in the beginning, and like, they're like, all right, wow, the meow game, that's clever and fun, and then like they really give this guy a hard time. But then when the main cop is talking to Farva about the meow game, like what does he say? Shit. He's like, I'll call him a chicken fucker.
Yeah.
But then
He's
like
like,
he said
meow.
something at
I
the
could say
end.
meow. I could say moo. Hell, for $20, I'll call him a chicken fucker.
Yeah, for $20, I'll call him a chicken fucker. That's like,
And he's like,
just the
easy
way he
five,
delivers it.
easy
It's just like,
five.
dude. And there's so much baked into that because it's like, dude, you don't get the game at all. Like the whole point is you're trying to be subtle about it. Like you're not like.
Like the whole point is like they're trying to fuck with the people, but not in like malicious ways. Like they're just trying to just get through the day and having a little fun with their job.
Right,
And
right.
Farva has no understanding of subtlety or just innocent pranks. Like everything to him is a 13. Like that man starts at an 11 and only gets higher as he
Yeah,
does
their
anything.
shenanigans are whimsy and fun.
His shenanigans are evil and tragic.
Yeah. And then I love that part too, where they're like, "Hey Farva, what's that restaurant you like with all the shit on the walls?"
Like, you mean shenanigans? I'm like, oh.
And they like try and hand the captain the pistol whip him.
Pistol whip him. It's so funny that how committed they are to not taking their job seriously, even when the captain has pulled them aside and is like, they're gonna shut us down. Like
Well, yeah,
we need to get it together or they're gonna shut us down. And they're still just like, I'm gonna be as insane as possible.
yeah, and I mean, like, what you find out as the movie goes on is the captain, played masterfully by Brian Cox, by the way,
Oh yeah, it's so funny.
who is not going to come up in IMDb deep dive, but I am going to take this opportunity to once again ask you to watch Succession, however you say it.
All right.
But no, like even the captain doesn't take it seriously, and that's like kind of the point. Is like it's always been kind of like this stupid boys' club, like
Just a bunch of bumbling fools committing
yeah,
tomfoolery.
right. Who point radar guns at things. Like that's all they do. Like you don't need to be a genius to do that. Like when they like feel like it's like after they think they're gonna get shut down, right? When they go on like the big drinking binge with Brian Cox, and they're like knocking over the local cops like mailboxes and stuff. They're like prank calling their station.
Yeah, that part is when Brian Cox becomes his most unhinged. Like when he just lets
Yeah.
it go and gets hammered and he's just out of control. He's like, "Look, I found a 2x4." He starts
Yeah.
swinging it.
And they steal Farva's car, right? Because it's after Farva like betrayed them.
Yeah. Yeah, so they handcuff him to the toilet and they take off in his car and just start committing just tomfoolery around town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, that
good.
it's so funny. And yeah, Brian Cox just barely holding it together with these group of clowns. Um and it's funny that we talked about here where it's like you said before how the plot is just window dressing to just let them do shenanigans. And it really is because when you try to think any deeper into any of this, it's you're never gonna get any answers. Like I love that what sets this really all off is that they find the dead girl in the Winnebago, like off the highway, but you never find out in the movie explicitly who killed this girl to set this all off.
Nope. Right.
Because
Never answered.
yeah,
Yeah.
because clearly like the local police don't want her dead because that's going to draw attention to them, and they never point it towards Galifianakis or whoever it is that's running the shipment back and forth. So you just never find out who killed who hogtied this woman with like a leash and left her in like a bowl of dog food.
I didn't think about it that I didn't think about it as much this time, but I'd always kind of thought that the local police were the ones who killed her.
That's what I
Like
used
that
to
it was
think
like
too.
some like
But
they were like the muscle for this drug empire, and like this lady had fucked up somehow. That's always what I thought about it. And that's why they were trying to like lock down the crime scene and all that stuff. But like the movie never
yes, it's
explicitly
yeah,
says that. It never even like hints at it, honestly.
yeah.
It
That's as
just
good a guess as any. But it would be weird that if they killed her, that they would have left it off the highway to even give any semblance of a possibility that the
Oh
highway
yeah.
troopers would pick up on it. I
Yeah,
do
that's a
love
good
that
point.
though. Although like they probably assumed it would be easy to get away with because they're all bumbling idiots. Because I do love when Max shows up and they're like, "There's a hog in there," and he's like, "She's angry." And he runs in to go like wrestle it, and then comes out with just like a bloody mouth, and he's like, "You're a bust." There's a dead chick in there. Like right there, the local police were like, "We got this. These guys are clowns." Like,
Yeah. Right, I don't right, they don't look at them as a threat at all. Like about anything at all, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So it's like any
uh,
semblance of
dude,
like
which
actual thought to this plot is just gonna leave you confounded.
yeah, I mean like I feel like you could sum up all the things that happen related to like figuring out where the weed came from and like all that stuff. There's maybe like 5 minutes of screen time that's actually to get dedicated to that in like in the back 2/3 of this movie. And like most of that back 2/3 is just like silly bits, like where Farva's getting into fights at fast food chain restaurants, or they're like going around like hitting mailboxes. You know what I mean? Like,
And, like it's all like background noise along with these guys' shenanigans.
right? Or they're doing the repeater.
Yeah. And I was thinking of what the captain said, and I think I want to play this one straight. Okay? Okay. Frohagen? Frohagen. He like still doesn't know if he's like going
Yeah,
nuts.
right. It's like unclear exactly if he's doing the repeater or not, but we know he is.
Like it's so goddamn funny. And there's
Dude,
so many just bits in this that are just hilarious.
there was another one that I had totally forgotten about. Like, there's a lot of parts of this movie that I could probably like quote pretty accurately, like even before I had watched it this time.
Yeah.
But then there was like the part where they go to the little league baseball game and the local cop is like doing like baseball signs to his kid to throw at the highway patrol dude's kid. It's like what is going on? And then they send him like a big cotton candy, like as if they're like sending him a drink at a bar. It's so like what little league baseball game does that where you could be like, hey, go bring this big giant cotton candy over to that guy. Like,
So fun. Well, my favorite part of that is I love Foster's attempts at trying to score with that chick. Like when he just walks up and sees it, he's like, "Oh, I loved running into you at that brawl the other day." It's like
no, yeah.
it's so sad. And she's like, "All right, you can slug me one back." He's like, "Yeah, all right, hold my snow cone."
Yeah, that's at the baseball game. Yeah,
Yeah,
and she gets hit by the foul
hit with the
ball.
foul ball. He's like, "Why?"
Oh man.
One
Yeah,
thing
so
I missed too in this one that I didn't really notice until this go around watching it is how much of polygamist and open relationship Ramathorn is in this movie. Like he's dating like the hippie chick, and just every chance they get, they're just like they're fucking other people in their relationship. Like they bring in the
Oh yeah,
Swedish
totally.
guy and girl.
Yep, yep.
Like it's so
I
funny.
like that line too, where he's like, "What am I gonna be, a retired cop with his hippie ex-girlfriend? It's a
Yeah,
sitcom."
too sitcom, darling.
Yeah.
It's like, who wants a mustache ride? That's my favorite bit where they're talking about him getting relocated, and you see someone jumping on the bed, but you don't see who it is, and you assume it's his son. And he's like, "Hey, stop jumping on the bed." And he does it like 3 times, and then when they finally cut to him, and it's the people they arrested, it's like fucking cry.
Yeah. So good.
It's so funny and absurd. And again, like this movie goes down great just for having just some of the best quotable dialogue ever. I still to this day, like me and Zach, if we're around and somebody says the line and someone says to us, like, what'd you find out? We'll both just go, my cruiser weighs 1,300 kilograms. Like, and it's such a dumb line, but
Yeah. No, but it's funny. Like, and like the movie's already got you laughing by the time that stuff comes up. So you're like, you're in and buying into all of it.
it's a great,
Car Ramrod.
yeah, car ramrod. Say car ramrod.
Say
Ah,
Car Ramrod.
yeah, like it's a great movie for stoner comedies. And like, and this is kind of like a new like we've done comedies before, but I feel like this is the first one we've done that really falls into and complements the stoner comedy. Because like movies like Kung Pao and Black Knight and Scary Movie, they you might get a bit extra oomph out of laughing at some of the jokes because you're stoned, but this is the first movie that feels like it's built for a stoner audience.
It's probably the first one I can think of. I'm sure it's not the first one, but
I mean, the first one
I mean, like,
that we've done on the podcast, not
there
that
you
like
go.
the
Yeah,
first
that makes
one.
sense. I'm
Yeah,
like sitting here like, what
yeah,
year
not
did Cheech and Chong come out
yeah,
again?
yeah. No, no.
Like,
I mean for our podcast, not like the first one to ever be made.
yeah,
That
yeah,
would be
yeah.
bold.
I was like, yeah, 2002 seems pretty late for that to have happened.
That's really when the stoner craze really picked up, was the early 2000s.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Was there anything you disliked about this movie?
No, I mean like it's hard to nitpick because it's just goofy and it makes me laugh a lot. You know what I mean? So like if they do that, like what am I gonna be upset about? You know, what am I gonna say is bad?
Exactly. And
And
then this is one of
not
the
to
better
mention,
comedies too.
I think it's the closest we've come to what I will still say is the perfect runtime for a movie. For me,
The
the
hour
perfect
40.
runtime is an hour and 41 minutes, and this movie comes in at an hour and 40. So it's like right there, dude. It's like
Yeah.
right exactly where it ought to be.
Perfectly on the perfectly balanced as all things should be.
Exactly, exactly. And like, we say this a lot too, where like if you're gonna be longer, you need to have a good reason. And Super Troopers is like, nope, we don't got one, so we're not gonna be longer. Like this is just as much as you need, and we're out.
And they got just enough of the right bits to not having you start to turn and feel like we're dragging on for too long. They knew to get in and get out. And they keep you laughing throughout. And just as you're about to get to that point where maybe this might start to be a little long in the tooth, they're wrapping it up and we're out.
Well, yeah, or like when they're getting there, then Farver is unsuspended, so now there's like a new dynamic that they can play jokes off of
Yeah,
with. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
they really explore it and keep it as fresh as possible for that hour and
Yeah,
40
and they
minutes.
they know how to like twist it up. Yeah, because Farva being unleashed at Dimpusburger or whatever the hell the place is called
Yeah,
is really like one of the best scenes.
that
Uh,
whole exchange with the guy. Cause like, why did he say it's for a cop, right? Like that,
yeah,
like Farva
yeah,
has like a real bone to pick there, I think.
one Dimpusburger, it's for a cop. Or just say it like that. And so he makes it good.
And then he goes, "What did he order next?" Oh man, and he's like, "One milkshake, hold the spit."
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, "I'm just messing with you, officer." Like that kid is really funny in that
Yeah.
scene.
Would you just order a large Farva? I don't want a large Farva.
What a goddamn liter of cola.
Yeah, it's so good. And just like the way they cleverly get Farva too, where they just poke the hole in the like the
Yeah.
steak that he could get. Goddamn burger punk, son of a bitch. I
Yeah.
love that leads to another one of my favorite scenes is when Brian Cox is reviewing the footage from the attack. And he's sitting there and he's like, there used to be a time we used to take guys out like you out back and beat you, but now you got your unions. He's like, Cap, you know I'm not a pro-union guy.
Yeah, right, right. Because of course he isn't. He's like such a douche. Yeah,
He's such a piece of shit.
so
But
funny.
Farva is without a doubt the best character in that movie because he's just an absolute maniac. I like his scene when he comes out and tries to threaten the rookie. And he's just like, you know who won that country record that
Yeah,
year? Mr. John
John
fucking
Denver.
Denver. And he's like, wow, really? And he's like,
He lit
you know,
that country music award on fire.
you would have bet your ass he'd lit that country award on fire. It's like, so what do you say? Gonna light my country music award on fire? Saying you better watch your ass. Like he had that long-winded, dumb analogy just to tell the rookie to watch his back.
Right, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like it has nothing to do with what he's trying to say.
Like he's just an absolute maniac. That's my car. That's my girl.
Yeah. But no, so like to answer your question from a while ago, no, like what am I gonna say I don't like about it? Like most of the bits hit for me. I can't think of any of them that like. It's also interesting because of all the comedies we've done so far, I think this one has aged the best in terms of like things that you wouldn't necessarily think are kosher to say these days, or like you definitely won't see in a movie anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
I think
were
it's
there
like
really that many? I don't really think this one really struck a chord with any like jokes or topics that wouldn't be okay today. Like this is a movie
that's what
that,
I'm saying. Yeah.
yeah,
Like it doesn't
yeah,
go for any of that like offensive low-hanging fruit. It's just like funny in its own right, which I don't think you can say about things like Scary Movie 2 or we just did the first Scary Movie.
yeah. The first scary
Um
movie.
for the first Scary Movie had a lot of like yikes moments, you know what I mean? And like even Kung Pao Enter the Fist is like kind of just making fun of Asian people the whole movie. So
Yeah.
it's like
It's
you
not
know like
like horribly offensive, but like it's not offensive.
yeah, right, exactly, exactly. So
Yeah.
like just and I can't think of any other comedies we've done off the top of my head, but it's just interesting like this one didn't in 2024 I can watch it and I'm not like oi oi oi, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like it plays it straight the whole time and it's still funnier than all those other movies we just talked
Movies.
about.
Yeah, well, and it has like a really good amount of jokes that still land. Like, we've talked so much about a lot of movies that, we'll watch and the first time the joke will land and then by the second time you're watching it, you're kind of like, yeah, all right, like that's not as funny the
Yep.
second time.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie manages to find a way to feel timelessly hilarious. Like no matter how many times, like just watched that movie, I could watch it again tonight, and that opening scene, I'll be laughing as hard
Yeah.
as I did, the first time watching it because it's
I
just
watched it. I watched it again like this morning. Like I put it back on before I went into work because I watched like the first like maybe like 40 minutes again before I went to
yeah.
work.
And it's just like it's one of those movies that it's just always because it's the type of humor is that it's not shooting to like take anybody down. It's just, yeah, what if there were these group of cops and they just enjoyed playing harmless pranks on people they were pulling over?
Yeah, they're just doofuses.
Exactly. Yeah,
Like
and
that's
it does
it.
exactly what we talk about your comedy characters needing to do is they need to be idiots.
Yep. Yeah, we've talked about that a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the
And I mean,
perfect
yeah, also the
example of it
other
working properly.
yep, the other comedy we've done is Black Knight, by the way, which just reminded me of it, which I mean the whole point is that the guy like it's like entirely based on race. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Absolutely. Yeah, so this one managed to just toe the line perfectly with great humor that still lands today. And I think that's something that they've done throughout all of the movies they've done. They've made these comedies that have managed to have situations and jokes that are really funny that are never really aimed at anybody in particular. They're just funny.
I don't know. If you were German people, you might take a few issues with Beer Fest.
All
But
right, all right.
even then, like, and we'll obviously do that movie at some point because we definitely saw that in theaters. But
We definitely did.
even that movie, it's like so absurd, like you can't even like be mad at it. I mean, well, I don't know. I shouldn't speak for the German people.
Yeah, all right. So the German people in Beer Fest excluding, they've managed to
Yeah,
toe a pretty good line in their movies.
we just beat the Irish, so I'd say yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my God, it's
But
so
yeah,
so
and
silly.
I don't really have much else to say. I think we've waxed pretty poetic. We've gotten into some of the funnier bits and skits and lines, and I don't know. Do you have anything else?
Oh, I think we hit the nail on the head with this one. It's just a great, hilarious comedy. I could not recommend it enough to anybody who hasn't seen this movie, especially if you enjoy comedy movies. This is definitely one that should be on your radar. But with that, Jim, I think we should cue it up and turn our attentions over into that IMDb deep dive. All
All
right, so you
right.
said
So
we
this week,
weren't doing Brian Cox, so I'm curious. Are you picking the whole Broken Lizard boys?
I think so. I mean, like we have a couple more of their movies coming up, but probably not for a while. Um,
Yeah,
like
Club Dread's
calendar
not
year
till oh
wise,
04.
right? And then Beer Fest is '06.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Um,
Yeah, Beer Fest is gonna be a while down the road.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, like, I think the idea is we could probably save the director, who also has some interesting credits besides Broken Lizard movies, for maybe
Um,
one of those.
what was his name again, Jim?
Uh, hold on. Um, Jay, hold on. Jay Chandrasekhar.
Somehow you managed to sound worse than the last one.
That one was worse. I felt like I was way better. I had like a nice little roll between the Chandra.
I guess it all just depends on where like the accents are and like pronouncing his
I
name.
mean, I think it's funny that neither one of us have any idea how to say it, and
Yeah.
you're like judging like, no, that one wasn't even close. It's like you don't even know it's close. What are you talking about? Yeah,
Oh
good
no,
old
he's on to
JC.
me. Yeah, JC. There we go. Perfect.
he uh he has some other interesting directing credits throughout his career, like that aren't Broken Lizard movies, and he works a lot in TV. So I want to save him for another episode.
Okay.
Um, I think because we have so much time before some of these other movies, we should just let's just talk about like the general like Broken Lizard writing and just I don't know. I mean I guess we could like this is weird because now we're just gonna
Trajectory.
like list a bunch of movies. I guess I don't know.
Blew, yeah, well, hey, they blew onto the scene with this and
Well,
great.
so there's something they have before this that I'm interested to see actually if you've heard of
Oh,
or
okay.
seen it. He wrote so I'm on JC's IMDb. So he has like a short that he did in 1994. But then in 1996, like written by Broken Lizard, it looks like a feature movie called Puddle Cruiser.
Ever heard of it?
I've never heard of this either. I'm gonna read the
Synopsis.
synopsis here.
Okay.
A student falls in love with a fellow student who is defending his buddies in university court. He proves his love to her by playing rugby against her ex-boyfriend.
What?
Yeah, and it's written by
Those are
JC.
two those are two completely separate plots that just somehow like defending him in court and then like rugby games. Like what?
No, well, he falls in love with the person in the court thing, and then he has to beat her boyfriend in rugby.
Okay. So court's just like the setup.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all the Broken Lizard guys are in it, right? Like, so they wrote it,
Wow,
yeah.
that's funny. I gotta find that somewhere because I'm sure
Yeah,
that's probably
that would
so
be a fun one to
hilarious.
watch. That would be a fun one to watch, I think. And then yeah, but I mean, like, I doubt that got like a wide release or anything.
Yeah, that's
Actually, you know what?
probably like
While we're deep diving, let's see if we can find it on Box Office Mojo. So just so we don't end up just being like, and then they made Club Dread, and then they made whatever.
probably. Yeah, I wonder if it got any type of theatrical release or if they just like shopped it around. at like film studios, at film festivals.
Well, it had to get released on something, because otherwise, like, if you and me just made like a movie, we wouldn't get an IMDb credit, would we? Like,
Uh, hold up. If we enter it
is that?
into a film
Did we
festival,
just hack
maybe.
Hollywood? Did we just?
Might have. That's how we get on the list.
I'm trying to see IMDb. It's not on.
Not on Box
It's
Office
not.
Mojo.
It's not on Box Office Mojo. I'm trying to see if IMDb has like a distributor or anything.
So
Like
maybe they
for.
like retroactively edited on there, like after they did all the Super Troopers one and stuff, to be like, hey, this was like the first thing they did. Because I think maybe if it was in like film festivals or something, it could get
Oh
on
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe it
IMDb.
was like a festival release.
Yeah,
I apologize if there's audio here. I'm gonna try and pause it before it starts, but it looks like the full movie is on YouTube.
cool.
I'll probably give that a watch later, honestly.
Yeah, I'm
But
gonna
yeah,
try
so
to watch
Super
that at some
Troopers,
point.
not their first movie, just their first like real wide release movie.
Yeah, their
This is
first like,
actually their first movie, as IMDb so eloquently states.
well, it seems like they probably made that and somebody saw it and was like, I like that. Let's give them something and let them do something else. And they did. And Super Troopers was born and blew up and gave them the career that we see today.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then, so I know we're gonna do Club Dread and Beer Fest, so let's not
Classics.
talk too much about those. But yeah, both of them I think are really great. Um, what did you think of Super Troopers 2? Maybe that's a good one, because that doesn't
Oh,
come out till
I
2018. If we ever do that on this podcast, we're gonna be like 70 years old. So
We'll be very old men by that point. I was not a fan of it.
I was also not a fan. I know we saw this in theaters as well.
Yeah. Well, we talked about too a lot in this pod where, you got the type of comedies where you watch it once and the jokes don't really land, and then you watch it the next time and they don't land at all, and it kind of feels just like a dumb comedy that you're waiting for it to be over. That's
Yeah.
Super Troopers too.
Yeah, Super Troopers 2 feels like what I see comedy sequels do a lot, where they're like, we're just going to do the same jokes, but this time we're going to do them in a different place. And
Like,
it's
what
like,
if we
oh,
made
that
this?
is
Yeah.
that what the draw is? Okay.
Like, we're gonna do the same bits, but in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Right, right. And it's like, I don't know, man, maybe. Like,
It's like, no, don't like that.
the only other one, and this is one I've never seen either, the Slam and Salmon. Have you seen that one?
I have seen the Slam and Salmon. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it after it came out. And that one's pretty funny too. I think it's them working in like a restaurant, and it's very funny. They got Michael Clark Duncan in it as like the owner of the restaurant, and
Oh gosh.
he's really fucking funny in it.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like there's like one scene where he's like sitting around hosting like foreign dignitaries or whatever, and he says like they say something and he goes, yeah, well, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a merry Christmas. Say that to them. So then the translator starts speaking it in like its own language, and then Michael Clark Duncan goes like, no, say it how I said it. Person's like, if ifs and buts were candy. It's so funny.
That is a pretty good bit, like where he just is like mad that the translator is actually translating it.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's really dumb, but that one gets I like that one a lot
Yeah,
still.
I mean, spoiler alert, all of the Broken Lizard movies are really dumb.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's not a bad bar for entry for these.
I mean, you want your comedy to be pretty stupid.
Yeah. But
That
yeah, and
was
I mean, like, this is a tricky one because it's like most of the people in this movie are either Brian Cox, which has like 1,000 credits, and isn't really a great IMDb deep dive for this, I don't think. I have a movie in mind for Brian Cox. We'll see if he wins the day on that one.
gonna be X too.
But yeah, or they're in Broken Lizard, so it's like, what are we gonna do? Like, we need to talk about, like, that's really like the gist of it. So
Have you ever watched so two of the Broken Lizard guys splintered off and made a TV show called Tacoma FD, which just
I
makes
have heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
yeah, so it's just a stupid firehouse show about firefighters like hanging around the firehouse, and it parodies like the big network like firefighter shows. And it's Kevin Heffernan who played Farva and Steve Lemmy, the guy who played Mac.
Oh, I didn't realize Farva was in it. I knew Mac was in it because he's
Yeah,
like he looks basically exactly how he looks in
exactly
this
the
movie,
same.
like mustache and everything.
Yeah, and so I loved it's really stupid, but it's very funny at the same time. And I loved it because Mac has always been my favorite of this group of guys. There's just something about him that like anytime whatever role he's given in any of these movies, he's always hilarious in them.
Yeah, dude, you
Um,
know what I found out like today, like when I
what?
was watching Super Troopers in the morning, he played Fink in Beer Fest. I thought it was like a
Yeah,
totally different guy.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I had no
He's
idea that
thinking
that was him. I was like, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, wait, these guys are like a comedy troupe, and like, why isn't that one in Beer Fest? So I went to go look at the credits, and I'm like, oh my god, he's Fink. No way. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, he's so great. That and I like how they managed to switch him up in every movie and like play against type. 'Cause, like you'll see it, you even see it, I think, with Kevin Heffernan. Like he's such a piece of shit as Farva. And then in Club Dread, I think he's like the hero, right? Like, isn't he like the one of the
Yeah,
good guys?
he's the protagonist in Club
Yeah,
Dread because it's like
yeah,
one of the few movies where there's actually like a single protagonist.
yeah. And then so like it's funny to see them like consistently switch it up and not play the same because it would be easy for them to stick to formula where it's like, all right, like Kevin plays a really good douchebag, so we're gonna have him do that in every
Right,
movie we do.
right.
So it's I like that they switch up in each movie and kind of play against type with everybody.
Yeah,
Because they're all really funny anytime whoever they're playing. I think Club Dread especially, they're all the characters they play in Club Dread are really funny.
yeah. How about this for a little end cap of IMDb deep dive? Which character do you like more, Farva or Landfill? That's tough, right?
That is tough. I gotta say I gotta go with Farva because Farva is just fucking iconic. He's just
Yeah,
such a piece of shit.
he
I
really like makes the movie for me.
Yeah, yeah, he's just so out of control in this movie. Like just the scene alone where he shows up to the meet with the governor and they're just like easy farm. He's like open bar, dude, and he's just like banging. He's like, give me like 6 schlitzes. I'm like, we don't have any schlitzes. Ah, whatever's free. And then like 10 minutes later in the montage, he's just vomiting in the bathroom.
Yeah,
Like he's just such a scumbag.
yeah, that's fair. I think I'm taking Farva too. Yeah, because he
I
really
do
does like
love
this
I
movie
do
for
love Landfill though. But like his best scene is just the scene after Landfill dies and then like Landfill 2 shows he's like and I feel like there's no like awkward
me.
getting to know each other moments. You guys he drinks like Landfill.
He told me all about you guys, so we won't have that awkward getting to know each other period.
Like would you guys call me Landfill? Like it's so silly.
That is a really great bit. Like that's probably the funniest thing that happens in any of these movies.
But all right, Jim, cue up my boy. Let's dive into some star ratings.
I'm Roger Ebert. Been a scene from the best film of the decade. This is a great film.
Right, Jim. Now's the time.
Okay.
Final ratings, final thoughts. Super
Did we ever
Troopers.
land on if we can give a movie a 0? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. Yeah, what a hard twist. What a twist.
No, I mean, yeah, I feel like I've said everything there is to say. I'm not gonna add too much at this part. I am gonna give it 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. All right.
Actually, let's call it 3.5. 3.5 out of 5.
Going 3.5 out of 5. A 3.5 from the gym team. Yeah, I'm like right there with you. I think this is one of my favorite comedies from a kid. I quote this movie all the time. To me, I'm gonna give this one 4 stars.
Nice.
When I was younger, this was a perfect 5 for me. And watching it now, it still is like amazing and very funny to me. But I can't give it a 5 as an adult now watching it. That would just be insane to put it on the same level as
Yeah,
Titanic
because
and Fellowship of the Ring.
it's like barely a movie is the point. Like that's why
Exactly.
I can't give it even a 4 because it's like it's a lot of funny stuff, but I don't. It's like hardly a movie, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can go with the 4 just because all of the bits together work for me. So this is like to me one of my favorite comedies. So I'm gonna put it towards the top for my comedies at least. So I'm giving this bad boy a 4.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
Yeah, but all right, a 4 and a 3.5 from you, Jim, is good enough to give Super Troopers a 7.5, baby. All right,
Nice, not
it's up in
bad.
the top of the pack right there.
Is that
So
our
it
first 7.5?
no, it now joins two other movies with 7.5, The Lost World Jurassic Park and Rush Hour 2. So now the question is, Jim, is to find out where Super Troopers is going to land. Do you take Super Troopers or Rush Hour 2?
I will take Super Troopers.
I also would take Super Troopers. Oh, look at that. Would you take Super Troopers or The Lost World Jurassic Park?
I will take The Lost World Jurassic Park.
I also would take The Lost World Jurassic Park. So beautiful, nice and easy right there. Sandwich it in between the two of those movies. So now Super Troopers is going to sit in the number 7 seed right now with a 7.5 right there, sandwiched in between those two. Quite a top 10 of movies we've got right now.
Yeah, what's the top 10 currently?
So the top 10 currently, Jim. Obviously, in our number ones, I get tied for number one because we kind of never really could come across where we landed on either of those ones. So 1 and 1A were Titanic and Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh yeah, we decided we're gonna save until we have a bunch of tens, right? And then like,
Yeah, and then kind of like figure out where we're gonna like land all those bad boys. So we'll call those ones are sharing the top spot right now. And then
sure.
the
Are they
third,
one or is that one and two? Like, is the next
we'll
one
say
gonna be
it's
three?
It's 1 and 2, yeah, and then we'll
Okay,
say, even though we're
gotcha.
kind of
In no
like
particular
not
order. Yeah,
ranking it yet, we'll say those are one. It's still 1 and 2, even though we're kind of considering them not ranked yet.
gotcha.
And then number three seed is Gladiator. Then we got
Okay,
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
so far so good.
We got A Knight's Tale.
Okay,
We got The Lost World Jurassic Park.
there's a pretty steep drop from the top, like 3 or 4 to Knight's Tale, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. So number 6 was The Lost World Jurassic Park. Now slotting into number 7 is Super Troopers. At number 8, we've got Rush Hour 2. At number 9, we've got How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And rounding out the top 10 is Castaway. Super Troopers landing in here knocked out the previous number 10, which was Shrek.
Oh, okay. I am interested to see if we ever actually end up doing a re-ranking video because there's one movie in that list that you just said that I literally haven't been able to stop thinking about since we watched it for this show, and I honestly might give it a 5 if we ever do that. I'm not gonna say what it is.
I'm guessing it is Castaway.
All right, you got it. I literally have been thinking about it ever since we did the episode. Like just random days, I'm like, yeah, man, how good was the end of Castaway? Like the last like 30 minutes is so great.
You gave it a 3.
I know it's a travesty. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
Once upon a time, we used to take old Jim out back and beat him with a hose, but now he's got his union.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that's as good as any of a quote to end on. What do you think?
Yeah, I think absolutely right there. That is perfect. Let us know down below if you caught Super Troopers up on the big screen, your thoughts on this comedy classic. Jim, are you ready to take a running guess at next week's episode?
Um, sure. Do I
So,
get a hint?
yeah, yes, I'll give you a hint here. So it is an animated movie.
Oh boy, in 2002.
Yep, 2002 animated film.
I'm
I will
gonna
give you one other hint too. It is the first film in a franchise. So this movie
okay.
kicks off a huge animated franchise.
I am gonna go ahead and cheat, and I am gonna look at the box office and see the like what animated movies I can find,
You
and see if I want to
bastard.
pick any of those. And feel free to cut this part out. I mean, it's not cheating. If the hint is it's an animated movie, that's like that's like all right.
Live
You've
birth.
narrowed it down to about 50,000 movies. um, I wonder is Return to Neverland animated? But you never saw that one. You were
It's
like
animated, but
not sure even what it
yeah, you're right. I
was.
didn't even know what that one was. So safe assumption.
God, how far do I have to go for a freaking animated movie here?
He doesn't even know his 2000 animated movies. God.
I mean, I don't know. If it's like a oh, okay, hold on. This has got to be it. I
Oh
think I
no.
found it.
Oh
It took
no.
me a couple of clicks here. It took me a couple of weeks, starting from Super Troopers to get there. But it's got to be Ice Age.
It is Ice Age.
Yes, nice. Okay.
That is right. Diving into Ice Age. This is a movie I don't think I've watched since I saw it in theaters back then. So it'll be interesting to go back and watch this one because
I
you
don't think
know
I've seen any of those movies.
I think I've only seen like the first two, and that was it. I was like, that's enough.
Isn't
Uh,
Ray Romano in them, or is that the
yes.
one with Ben Stiller?
No, the first, it's Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Leary.
Oh boy.
Quite a trio there.
Oh, I already know who we're doing for IMDb deep dive.
Oh boy, can't wait to find out for that one.
I'm
So
gonna
that
bust
one's.
Spawn out again on you.
Oh no, they gave us Spawn again. No, that's amazing. But yeah, so be sure to tune back here next week when we dive into the Kickstarter of a huge animated franchise in Ice Age. Jim, do you have a recommendation to leave the people with here tonight? What are you watching
Nah,
now?
nah. Still just Gotham.
Still just Gotham. That's fair. And I'm
Yeah.
still just watching 24. So watch your TV shows here, people. That's all we got for you this week. And as always, until next time, we'll see you at the movies.